This is Seth David for schoolofbookkeeping.com, bringing to you another special screencast. This time we're talking about value billing and the software training model. Does it or does it not work? Is value billing really valuable, or is it a disaster waiting to happen? I'm going to do my best to be objective here, but sharing my own experience, I'm going to have to probably lean towards it's a disaster waiting to happen. And I'm going to show you why. I'm going to share my experience with you, as I often do, to sort of back up my claim. That I think it's a fad. I think it's exciting to talk about because lots of people are talking about it. It's like the new cool thing to talk about, right? Oh, I'm doing value billing. Oh, look how that guy's so cool. He's doing value billing. So I'm going to point out to you, I'm going to share a personal experience with you that has led me to the final conclusion that that value billing doesn't really work. And the core reason, the core principle behind why I believe it has a fundamental flaw in its theory is that value billing asks you to ignore time. But in the end, I can't ignore time because whatever I contract to do with somebody, I'm going to have to spend time doing it. So value billing says, it takes what it takes. It doesn't matter. You place the value on the services and charge based on that. And your clients are going to be happy and you're going to be happy and life is going to be wonderful. Until you actually find yourself in the situation I found myself in, which I'm going to share with you sort of little by little as we go on. But I want to back up before I had the experience I had to a situation where I was at a big accounting conference. Many of you know it's called the Sleater Conference, and there was a gentleman there who spoke about value billing, and on the side I talked to him a little bit. And in this video what I want to do is I want to illustrate based on the suggestion he gave me. I was telling him about how I do software training, and he gave me a suggestion, and I want to illustrate very clearly where I find a significant flaw in the suggestion that he gave me, or for that matter, how the value billing model fails, the training model, the software training model, miserably. So we're going to use our schoolofbookkeeping.com Excel template to illustrate. So company name, Nerd Enterprises, right? Let's come over here. Of course, this template's available for students. You'll recognize it's the same template we use for the trial balance, but this is made more generic for work papers. Nerd Enterprises. Inc. The date is really irrelevant, but let's just say for the year ended 12/31/14. Right? This is just a little form I created to fill out so that it shows up in the headers when I'm creating the work paper. So I was talking with the gentleman, and I told him about training and how, I bill by the hour now. It was sort of somewhat challenging. I'm asking him, how would the value billing model apply to training? I go out there, I do one-on-one software trainings. People pay me, I send a link, I log in, I spend an hour, or I spend an hour and a half. How do I value bill that? I mean, I'm charging per session. A session is based on a defined length of time. And he suggested me, he said, well, what if you just charge a monthly subscription and let them have as many trainings with you as you want? I thought about it. I said, oh, it could work, right? But me being practical minded, I said, okay, let's just say I'm going to attempt to employ his suggestion. I would, let's say, come over here and say, okay, and by the way, this is where Excel comes in really handy, is you really want to spend time looking at the numbers. So let's just say that I would charge $100 per month for a monthly subscription to something like this, right? And let's say I get 100 members. Let's say I start off right away and people say, oh my God, $100 a month, I can have as many trainings as I want, that's amazing, right? So I get 100 people right away signing up at $100 a month. That's $10,000. That's not bad, right? That's great money, right? But now I have to think about, okay, now I have to provide the training. I have to think in terms of how many trainings am I actually going to have to provide, right? Because out of these 100 people having now paid for their membership are going to want trainings with me, or an instructor, right? Let's say I hire somebody. Let's say I pay someone else to do the instruction because I can only do so much. In fact, let's say I'm going to go to the distance here and say I'm not even going to provide the instruction. I'm going to build the business and I'm going to pay somebody else to provide the software training, right? I have to at least have an assumption about how many trainings each of these 100 people are going to request of me each month. Let's say that at $100 a month, I would want at least one a week, right? I want to do one session a week with my instructors. So let's just call it 4 trainings per person every month, right? So if I put a 4 in here, that means I'm going to have to provide 4 trainings per month, which means 400 total trainings each month need to be provided, right? And if I'm paying somebody, then I have to pay them. And let's assume that they're not doing the value billing thing. Let's assume that they want to get paid per training or per hour, right? And let's just say that each training typical will be a 1-hour session, okay? Again, kind of hard to ignore time, right? I have to define that. I can't just say, well, come in and we'll spend as much time as you want because, you know, we're just charging you for value, right? I can't do that. It has to be defined. How long is the training? 1 hour. Okay, perfect. Let's say I'm going to pay my instructors $85 per hour or per training session. Now, brace yourself when you see what this number looks like. Enter. Boom. I'm going to lose my shirt on this. Okay? My total gross monthly income will be $10,000. My expenses, my overhead, direct expenses will be $34,000. I'm running at a loss of $24,000. Okay? Doesn't work. So let's say that I say, okay, well, then I need to charge more, right? How much more would I need to charge to make this make sense? Let's say I'm charging $185 an hour. Even at $185 an hour, I'm still running at a loss. Let's say I lower the amount I pay these people to $65 an hour. I'm still running at a loss. So clearly, the value billing model doesn't really work for the software training model. I would love to see a proponent of value billing come back to me after having seen this video. I invite you, please give me your suggestions for how the value billing model could work for this business model. I don't think it does. I think it fails. I think it's got that fundamental flaw in that it tries to ignore time, and you can't ignore time because time has to be spent providing trainings. Prove me wrong. I would love it. I would love for you to prove me wrong. If you prove me wrong, I will go out there and rethink my whole business model for Nerd Enterprises QuickBooks Answers website. I'd love that. I'd love nothing more than to be able to do that, to provide more value to my customers. I just don't see how it could work. And in the videos to come, I'm going to also attempt to blow the consulting model out of the water in terms of the value billing model. And I'll do that based on demonstrating through my own direct personal experience why it doesn't work. The bottom line on something like this is the only way to make it work is to charge an exorbitant rate. And it's going to get to that point where I'm going to price myself out of my market, and it's going to be too easy for competition to come in and blow me out of the water that way, right? In order to make this work at $185 an hour, it's still showing at a loss. So how do you make it work without charging a ridiculous rate? I don't know. You tell me. This is where I'm at with it, and this is where I sign off for this particular video segment. As always, I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.